You can listen to the Canadian Gothic early and ad-free on Amazon Music. Include it with Prime.
As we came out to the stop sign, we looked at the nativity scene and noticed that the baby Jesus was gone.
Police say he then went behind the counter and, after being unable to open the cash register, stole burgers and fries that were still cooking.
The city of Mount Pearl has been forced to implement some traffic measures to help manage this lineup. They've banned left-hand turns in or out of the Taco Bell restaurant itself. They also have enforcement officers down here in the lineup trying to smooth things along.
You are listening to Keep Canada Weird.
Handsome Aaron Airport, I'm so glad to be back here to keep Canada weird with you on a regular weekly weird news roundup. Our last episode, we rounded up like the most interesting stories we covered over the wonderful 2025. But again tonight, for episode 196 of Keep Canada Weird, we really only got to focus on the last week, and Canada did not disappoint. We got some great stories to unpack, but before we start peeling back the many weird layers, let me ask, how are you? And what's going on in Cape Breton Island?
Well, you know, I'm good. We did have a bit of an odd story today on the island.
Yeah, I actually had a few listeners reach out saying, I hope Aaron's okay. Is Aaron Airport okay? And I said, I hadn't heard from him all day, but you tell us what happened.
Yeah. Well, there was a grenade found at a car shop in downtown Sydney.
A live grenade?
A live grenade. So I guess it was found inside the building. It looked like it had been thrown through the window, but apparently that's not the case.
The big question, though, that listeners of the Canadian Gothic and Keep Canada Weird have is, are you okay? You weren't exploded in any of this.
No, I'm fine. I live probably about a 25-minute drive from where the grenade was found. I do work in town, so I do work closer to where this would be, but still...
It was a close call, you can say it. It was pretty close.
Yeah, thanks. I'm doing okay, thanks. Yeah.
Are you doing okay enough to have gotten yourself a special drink for Volume 196?
Yeah, I've got a special drink, yeah. I do.
Well, tell us a bit about it.
Oh, okay. I have decaffeinated coffee. It is McDonald's brand decaffeinated coffee. I have my cup here. It's a blank cup. There's no design on it. And I made it in a French press.
Ooh.
And so I have the French press still half filled with coffee right now. So if I decide to heat up my cup and pour a little bit more later on, I have that option to do so.
Mm-hmm. You can be your own waiter. Nice. I love coffee from a French press. It comes out so good. You know it's going to be a good episode because I'm double fisting. I have a tea, but also a mocktail by a company called Joy Burst. Again, called a mocktail, but to me it just tastes like a very strawberry infused pop. And I love this stuff.
Okay.
So I think both of us are well equipped for a long night of weird Canadian news. I want to jump right into it because we got some great stories. I'm actually going to unpack these stories in 3 segments. We're going to have stories about fast food, we're going to have stories about animals, and then we're going to have our WTF stories, which are just the weird, wild, wonderful stuff that can't fit anywhere else. The first story, though, is a big one. It's one that we've received countless emails and voicemails and text messages about. But I'm going to give credit to the first listener that sent this story to me. A listener named Aaron Airport on Cape Breton Island was the first one to tell us about Taco Bell taking over Newfoundland. You want to give yourself a round of applause for being the first through the gate with this story?
Yes, I will take all accolades and credit on this one because this is the story of the year.
I think it might be. We're starting 2026 strong and early with this story. Mount Pearl has discovered its breaking point, and it's tacos. What should have been a normal fast food opening somehow escalated into a chaotic scene involving traffic control, city hall, and lineups that felt more like a concert queue than the drive-thru for a Taco Bell. Here's the story of Taco Bell's takeover of Newfoundland.
A parade of red brake lights have taken over this stretch of a major thoroughfare outside of St. John's. Cars lined up down the street for a third day running waiting for a Taco Bell meal.
Delicious. Hopefully it tastes as good as they say.
How long did you have to wait?
Half an hour.
Not
We
too
got
bad.
1:30, 1:58 now. Got the food.
Since 1:34.
Since 1:34. Do you think it's going to be worth it?
Definitely. It better be.
This reception has been staggering. Over the weekend, some reported waiting hours just for a taste.
My son's birthday's New Year's Day. He wanted some. The lineup seemed pretty good today, so I said, okay, I'd get in the lineup for him to have a try.
The city of Mount Pearl has been forced to implement some traffic measures to help manage this lineup. They've banned left-hand turns in or out of the Taco Bell restaurant itself. They also have enforcement officers down here in the lineup trying to smooth things along. One job, ensuring people can get in and out of this nearby funeral home. The dining mania hasn't spilled over to other area restaurants, and not everyone is a huge fan of the drive-through craze.
The public needs to decide what kind of communities they want to live in, and if they want to live in fast food, franchise-dominated, cities and towns, then they get to ultimately the customer gets to decide.
He hopes that these dedicated customers remember businesses like his, especially during the slow winter months.
Oh man, I no offense to Taco Bell and people who love Taco Bell, but I can't think of a more underwhelming fast food franchise to be excited about than Taco Bell.
Well, I don't know. I quite like Taco Bell, to be honest. And if I lived I've always had you as well, growing up in Sydney, we've always had a Taco Bell. It's always been, available to us whenever we desire it, which is something that you can take for granted. And that's not, I don't think you should pass along that feelings that you have to the good people of Newfoundland, because I think that Taco Bell is great. I like it. I go there every once in a while, not all the time. It's a treat every now and then.
Really?
Yeah.
Would you wait an hour and a half in your car for Taco Bell?
No, I wouldn't wait an hour and a half for anything. There's not a food in the world. There's not 1,000 crumble cookies that I would wait in line for.
Okay. Yeah, well, the people in Newfoundland came out for Taco Bell, and this has been going on for days. It's kind of crazy to think that they actually had to redirect traffic, have cops on the scene. It does seem like if we're talking about Woodstock here rather than the grand opening of Taco Bell. But we're not innocent here in Halifax. I can think of Popeye's Chicken opened a few years ago, and same kind of thing. Traffic was backed up. People were waiting for hours. And people who were well-to-do, a.k.a. the rich folks, I heard that people with good money were actually hiring kind of like Uber-y kind of things or like meal delivery services to wait in the lineup for them to bring the Popeye's chicken to their house. And I just thought the whole thing was crazy. And anyone who follows my social media will see that I did a couple of videos of outside a Dollar Tree, the dollar store, when that opened in Halifax. Same kind of thing. It was, that opening day for Dollar Tree. It was almost an hour wait to get in there at some points of the day. Mm-hmm. People just go crazy for the new thing.
Even when it's not even new, because I remember this was probably maybe 12 years ago. But we've always had this Wendy's fast food restaurant, in downtown Sydney. Mm-hmm. They closed for renovations one time for quite a few months.
Okay.
And then when they reopened, the lineups would be just all the way down the street. And it was just madness of people being like, have you tried Wendy's again? It's And it's not like it was the only Wendy's that we have here on the island. There's another one about 25 minutes away in North Sydney.
Okay.
And so it's not like it was the only Wendy's. They just shut down for maybe 3-4 months for renovations. And when they reopened, it was madness. So
wow. Distance makes the heart grow fonder. I guess the same applies with your taste buds. I think this is not a uniquely East Coast Canadian or even Canadian phenomenon. I'm going to call out right off the bat here to any listeners around the world. Let us know about the time something underwhelming opened in your town and people went completely crazy. Go to thecanadiangothic.com/contact and tell us about it, because I'm sure there's going to be lots of stories like this. But as I said, we have a segment here all about fast food. We're not just going to be talking about Taco Bell the whole time. I think when people in Winnipeg heard about all the attention Taco Bell was getting in Newfoundland, they decided to to throw their hat in the Keep Canada Weird ring. Winnipeg rang in the new year with a crime so low stakes and so chaotic that it almost feels like a piece of Keep Canada Weird performance art. It's an armed robbery, it involves A&W burgers, it involves public transit, and it's truly a dumb Canadian crime. Here's the story of the Winnipeg A&W robbery.
A man is facing charges following a frightening robbery at a fast food restaurant near CF Pullen Park. Police say it happened yesterday afternoon when a suspect allegedly demanded money and threatened to shoot the employees at this A&W near St. James Street. Police say he then went behind the counter and, after being unable to open the cash register, stole burgers and fries that were still cooking. The employees retreated to safety and no one was hurt. Officers caught up with him not long after, finding him on a transit bus eating the food. A 29-year-old man is charged with robbery and possession of property obtained by crime.
Okay, this is a weird one. That story doesn't even sound real. It's so stupid.
Yeah, it's interesting, but I find this individual to be resourceful. They went in there with a particular goal. And just like in business, say if you're an entrepreneur and you have a business plan and you go in to start your company with this business plan and you want to follow it, to a T. However, lots of variables can occur and cause you to move in a different direction. And you often have to do that on the fly. And that's what this individual did as the robber coming in. I want your money. That's what I'm here for. Well, you can't have it. Okay, well, I'm just going to take this food then.
He's very adaptable.
Yeah. I think it's again, it's resourceful. It's shows initiative on behalf of this robber, because sometimes we see these dumb criminals and they go in with nothing, they come out with nothing. But at least this individual, it's like, well, yeah, I can't get the money, but I'm hungry, and I'm going to grab some burgers, and I'm going to eat them on my way home.
On the bus.
Yeah.
And we'll hear a bit about his bus ride, because that was a bit chaotic as well. But these two stories kind of lean on some figures of speech. When we were just talking about what happened with Taco Bell in Newfoundland, what came up was the figure of speech, distance makes the heart grow fonder. But in this story with the A&W robbery, it kind of sounds like there's a saying, shoot for the moon, you may land amongst the stars. That's what this A&W robber tried to do. Anyway, let's talk through this story. So here's what he does. He walks into the store, maybe not has a gun, threatens to shoot the staff, and wants cash. How does he not get in the cash register? Because it's like in that news clip, it says he couldn't open the cash register. Did he not try to get one of the workers to? Or was it that they couldn't even? How does he not get the cash register open? But even if he did, how much cash would a fast food joint really have on them? Like, that's one thing I don't get about robbers nowadays, is everyone seems to pay with debit.
Yeah, but I mean, they're still keeping cash in the register. They have to.
Yeah, I guess a couple $100.
I mean, more than that at a McDonald's, I would say. But
it's A&W.
Oh, right, it's A&W.
Way less.
Yeah, way less. Yeah. Probably what happened here is, he said he would shoot them, but I don't think he visually presented a weapon to them. It doesn't sound like he did anyway.
Yeah, maybe not.
And
because he'd be charged with probably a different crime.
Yeah, so I think what happened here is he said, open up the register, and because he didn't produce a gun, they're probably like, no, I'm not going to do that.
He thought, well, I'm taking this burger and fries. And they're like,
yeah, it's the money or the burgers. Which do you care more about?
Apparently, when he got on the bus, there was a situation there too. What I've read is that he got on the bus and immediately got in some kind of confrontation with other riders. And I don't know if a physical fight broke out or if it got close to a fight. And this is unrelated to the robbery. He just so happened to be so vile that he almost got in a fight as soon as he got on the bus. And as you heard in that news clip, the cops, a couple stops later, catch up to that bus, and he's sitting in the seat eating a burger and fries, which says a lot about his character. I can't handle when I'm in on a public bus or something. It's one thing if you have maybe a bag of chips that you're crunching on, but if you have a big burger and fries, it smells so strong and it's just weird for the people sitting around you, I find.
Yeah, but it doesn't bother me that much, I don't think. It would
No?
really depend on how they were eating it, I think.
What if there's like kind of like as if they haven't had a burger in ages and they're like half like moaning and just it's all over their mouth and lettuce like mayonnaise lettuce is falling down.
Anything with moaning and dripping sauces like that should not be allowed on a bus. But if you're taking public transit home and you picked up fast food, you have a small window of time before that food is cold. So I can understand why somebody would, in particular this robber, would eat the food on the bus.
You're very empathetic. We got a lot more stories to get to. We got to get into our next segment, which is going to involve animals. So let's take a quick break. And when we get back, we're going to be talking animals. Handsome Aaron Airport, when you keep your hand on the pulse of weird Canadian news stories, oddly enough, dead birds come up a lot. And that's going to happen again tonight. Residents in Chatham-Kent, Ontario are dealing with a scene that feels straight from a gothic horror movie after dozens, nearly hundreds, of dead crows were found in a park near the Thames River. There was no obvious cause, no clear answers, just a lawn full of birds and a growing sense of dread. Here's the story of all those dead crows in Chatham-Kent.
It was very upsetting and like a traumatic scene.
When Vanessa Skipper was visiting family in Chatham over the weekend, she never expected a simple drive through town would turn into something so disturbing.
So we cried a little bit, got back in the truck.
She and her partner came across dead crows scattered across a lawn off Grand Avenue with no obvious signs of what killed them.
I don't like that I don't have answers. I just feel uncomfortable.
Skipper shared the photos of the scene on social media where many others said they were disturbed by what they saw. But provincial officials say crow die-offs in Chatham-Kent are not rare, particularly given the large winter roosting population in the area. The ministry confirms it's working with the Canadian Wildlife Health Cooperative and that samples from the dead crows are now being tested.
There's a risk, but the risk to human in our region is very low at this time.
The Windsor-Essex County Health Unit says people don't need to panic, but they should be careful around dead or sick wildlife, especially when it comes to pets and children. If you find a dead bird on your property, officials say to wear gloves and a mask, use a shovel to pick it up, and either bury it or double bag it for the garbage.
That is a little bit of a gothic tale. The advice at the end about how to deal with a dead crow on your property was either bury it or double bag it for the garbage. And of course, while you're wearing a mask with gloves and a shovel, how would you handle that?
I would do exactly what they told me to do. I don't know if I would...
Bury it or put it in the garbage?
I'd probably put it in the garbage, double bag it. Because it takes a long time to dig a hole.
But it's sad, though. Something about crows. I've always had an affinity towards them. I've talked about this in the past, but my grandmother had a pet crow for years in the 90s. Well, a pet crow as in like a wild crow that she kind of tamed, sort of. And it would sit on her windowsill and all that stuff. But and they're so intelligent. Like, I love crows. This story kind of upset me a little bit, just like it did the people in the story. You see this big this basically looks like a public park or something, and there's just dead crows everywhere, all over the place. It looks almost like a bomb went off and just killed like trees full of birds. They're just scattered all over the ground, not in piles, but just all over the place. It's a very disturbing scene, and I can see why this became a bit of a talking point in the town of Chatham-Kent, because it is like unusual. It struck me as very odd.
Yeah, it reminds me of like a scene from a movie, early in the movie. Maybe it's an apocalyptic style storyline, and there's always some kind of a weird thing with animals happening early in the story. And this is what that reminds me of. You see a bunch of dead birds in one spot, and it just creeps you out.
Especially crows.
Especially crows, yeah.
This could have been it. So like they could have fit this in Stranger Things somehow.
Yeah. It's unnerving, and I definitely wouldn't go near it. I would keep my distance, especially with the everything that we read about in terms of avian bird flu and all this kind of these headlines.
but I guess it was really cold for a few days there, so a lot of people thought it could have had something to do with the temperature dropping so suddenly. But as we heard in that clip, the province or the municipality was going to be doing testing on the dead birds. We have an update here. I'll just read you a paragraph. Wildlife officials say testing has confirmed that avian influenza as the cause of the recent crow die-off in Chatham-Kent. 6 crow samples tested positive for the virus. And while further testing is underway, authorities say the risks to humans remains low and urge people to avoid contact with sick or dead birds. Now, I will say you don't need to remind me to stay away from sick or dead birds. I couldn't imagine touching, a crow or let alone a dead one. It seems odd. But anyway, no surprise there. I guess much like other stories along this thread that we've talked about in the past, large groups of birds, when they all get together in a tree and stuff, if someone has the flu, just like if they were humans at a large orgy, things would spread around pretty quick.
Things would spread around pretty quick, but it's interesting that they all died seemingly at the exact same time, because even if they all had bird flu, you would think that they would still die, like maybe one dies one day, 2 die the next day, maybe a week later, a couple more die. But in this certain circumstance, they all seem to have died at the same time because they're all just kind of dead in this one spot, a bunch of them. Yeah.
All there. Yeah. It looks almost as if a bolt of electricity just went through the tree that all the birds were sitting in, and they all just dropped. But whatever, these bird flus that are becoming such a big problem, they must be so severe. And that scares me because it's we just dealt with COVID. The birds are dealing with it now. But imagine if something like that hit humans.
No, I don't wish that on anybody. And these are our animal overlords as well, and who I have submitted to from day one. I just like to keep repeating that. The more I say it, the more true it is. And
you're trying to manifest a relationship with them.
Yeah, and I certainly want them to know that I feel for their loss, and I'm very sorry to hear about it, and that if there's anything I can do for my animal overlords, please let me know.
Yeah, I will say as well, before we move on to the next story, is that this is a loss that would be felt through the crow community. Crows are one of the only animals that actually have funerals. I've walked upon the rare occurrence of a crow funeral. I was walking down the street one time in Halifax, and up ahead I could hear just a bunch of crows cawing and going crazy. And when I got closer, I saw them all in the power lines and in the trees. There was just crows all over the place, and they were all chirping and freaking out. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? Is it mating season or something? And then I realized on the street, right underneath where they all were, there was a dead crow on the street. And all those crows were looking at it, basically screaming and crying. And that led me to a bit of a Google rabbit hole about crow funerals, which is actually a thing. When it happened, I took out my phone and filmed a little video, and I ended up selling the video to some nature company.
Wow, really? I didn't know that. Yeah.
This was probably 2010 or something. I posted the video online, and I got an email from a company, some film company, and they were like, we're doing a documentary on crows, and we'd like to use your video. Apparently it was very rare to catch it, and I think they gave me $100.
That doesn't seem like enough to me. You should have demanded more money.
I should have, yeah. I didn't really think of it. I was just happy to be talking to people who are also interested in crows.
No, you should just remind them, I film crow funerals for the money, pal. So $100 just doesn't cut it.
Yeah, well, let's move on to our final animal story of this segment. And this is one that has been already brought up multiple times on the show. Of course, we talk about raccoons a lot. Much like dead birds, if you cover weird Canadian stories, raccoons or trash pandas, they seem to pop up all the time. And I've heard you mention on several occasions that raccoons are maybe inching towards domestication and are maybe evolving to become cuter as a way to better connect with the humans that they live alongside of. Well, it turns out that a university just released a report that shows that is in fact happening. Let's hear about how and why raccoons are becoming cuter.
Raccoons are cute, clever, and chaotic. But could these backyard bandits become future lap cats? A new study from the University of Arkansas analyzed nearly 20,000 photos of raccoons and found urban raccoons may be showing early signs of domestication.
Well, urban raccoons have shorter snouts compared to their rural cousins. We refer to those as domestication syndrome. So that shortening of the snout might indicate that they're at the very beginning stages of the domestication process.
Trash and density make Toronto a raccoon hotspot.
The most promising hypothesis we have right now that explains all of these traits is that when animals live with humans, there's a very strong selection pressure for these animals to be friendly and tolerant towards humans.
Brad Gates has spent more than 40 years humanely removing wild animals from homes and returning them to the wild.
Why do you think there is such a fixation with raccoons?
You just have to look at a raccoon in the eyes to see that cute face, the mask.
True domestication takes tens of thousands of years. And owning a raccoon is illegal in Canada.
I know a lot of people got really excited and thought, oh, pet raccoons. I'm like, no. They're still wild animals. It just might be the beginning stages of a very long process.
I'm actually quite hopeful that happens. There's not a lot of sweeter looking things than a raccoon. It's just a shame they're so dirty and vicious.
Yeah, they certainly are vicious and aggressive and many other things, but adorable, absolutely. And I see people on social media who journal their life with owning a raccoon, but I didn't realize in Canada it was illegal to own a raccoon as a pet.
Yeah, I did know that because we've talked about it, and in fact I had an interview at one time with Jim Blackwood, also known as the Raccoon Whisperer. He's a man from Newfoundland but living in Nova Scotia who found viral fame for feeding large groups of raccoons that live behind his house. He made videos like sitting there giving them hot dogs and they're climbing all over him. I remember talking to him about that, and he was saying that there was some kind of gray areas surrounding what he's doing with his connection to feeding these animals. But yeah, you do see people online who have like raccoons as pets. But I think like in order to maintain that and make that work, that pet raccoon would have to be your life. Unlike a cat, like if a raccoon was domesticated to the extent that a cat, like Kent Higgs, or a dog, like my beautiful girl Penny is, a raccoon with that kind of behavior around a house would be really cool. Like it would be lovely to lay on the couch, throw on Netflix, and have a big fuzzy raccoon climb up and cuddle up with you. I'd be up for that.
Yeah, similar to like a sloth. You know, when you see videos and pictures of sloths and maybe they're hugging a zookeeper or something.
You're just like, I want that.
You just imagine, I just want to watch movies with this animal.
I deserve that.
Yeah, I've earned it. I've done so much.
Since we're on the topic, though, of like domestication of animals, like it seems like, you know, cats and dogs are the main animals that have been domesticated. But what are some other animals that are yet to be domesticated that you would like to see domesticated aside from a raccoon? Like, what would you want? A pet blank? I'll go first. We've already talked about crows. I would love to have a pet crow. They're so intelligent and they have emotion. It would be really cool if you could have a pet crow that lived in your house. I would be the guy with a pet crow.
A pet crow, yeah. I'd just like a bigger cat, like a lion, you know?
That was domesticated, not dangerous. And
that was not dangerous, you know, totally safe.
They're so beautiful and proud.
Yeah, and they're big and cuddly as well.
Yeah, you could ride it. Imagine seeing you ride down the street on your on your lion.
Yeah, just going to get the mail and
like a horse. That would be amazing. Well,
yeah, I guess imagine going to the mall with a lion. So, and it's like, no, it's, you know, it's my seeing eye lion.
It's domesticated.
So I'm allowed to, yeah. So that would be great to peruse all the different stores and just slowly, majestically going down the mall on top my lion.
Bare chested as well. Like there's no way you could wear a shirt if you're doing that.
Yeah, I wouldn't have a shirt on. No, I would just have like a pair of like really tight, short khaki shorts.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe a safari hat and no shoes.
Sword or no?
No, binoculars. And I'm just looking around and you know, it's like my modern urban safari.
I've thought about this for a while. Is I'd like if they could shrink down animals. I used to have pet hamsters and pet mice growing up that were, of course, in a hamster cage. But I often thought it'd be really cool if they found a way to miniaturize farm animals, and you could have a large hamster cage, and you could have like a couple mini cows, a mini pig, like a bunch of like really small chickens, and you could have a hobby farm just like on a desk in your house. I always kind of thought about how great that would be.
That doesn't interest me at all. I'd think their lifespan would be so short because they're so tiny.
Yeah, I guess that would mess with them. Anyways, that's all the animal stories for tonight. Let's move on to our third and final segment. And this is the segment that's going to make you scratch your head. We got a lot of meat on the bones of these stories. So take a big drink of your French pressed decaf coffee. When we get back from our final break, we're going to journey into the WTF stories that kept Canada weird last week. All right, Handsome Aaron Airport. Things are going to get interesting around here. Our first story is going to get a bit religious and maybe connect with a couple stories we've talked about in the past, but here goes. A Peterborough family's decades-old nativity scene is missing one very important cast member. Somewhere out there, baby Jesus has wandered off, and the community is being asked to help bring him home. No questions asked. Here's the story of the missing baby Jesus in Peterborough.
My wife and I were going out to do some errands, and as we came out to the stop sign, we looked at the nativity scene and noticed that the baby Jesus was gone.
Last Tuesday, the Mills family realized the manger in their display at the corner of Spilsbury Drive and Forster Avenue was empty. A family friend put the word out on Facebook, and the post has gained significant traction. Today, the Mills put up a sign asking for baby Jesus to be returned, saying no questions will be asked if he makes it back.
We realized it's probably a prank and people were doing it just for some fun. And so, people do that kind of thing sometimes, but it sure would be nice to have him back because the nativity scene really is incomplete without the baby Jesus, the main character in the center.
And this isn't the first time part of the scene has gone missing. A few years ago, the donkey disappeared on New Year's Eve, but was returned about a week later. The Mills family is hoping baby Jesus will also make his way home. Mills says the nativity scene will be up until January 5th for the 12 days of Christmas, but he and his family will welcome the return of baby Jesus anytime.
Yeah, they can bring it by maybe late at night or something. We don't have to know who you are or why you did it, but we'd love to have him back.
The man in that story is so sweet. He's giving Ned Flanders to me.
Very Ned Flanders vibes for sure. Has this man maybe, he obviously believes in Jesus. Mm-hmm. Jesus had magical powers. So maybe this Jesus got up and walked away on his own.
Like a form of a resurrection. I guess that's more of like an Easter. That would be more of an Easter thing. I don't know a lot of, I'm not a religious man. I was surprised to hear that he still has the nativity scene up. I thought that was something you'd have up right up into Christmas and then you'd take it down. But as we heard in that news report, he was going to keep the nativity scene even without Jesus up until January 5th for the 12 days of Christmas. Mm-hmm. So are some people celebrate Christmas longer, I guess. Pardon my ignorance.
I don't know much about that, but I know my Christmas tree is still up and it will probably be up until, deep into February.
Really? Well, good for you.
Yeah. I'm pretty lazy, so.
What about this man's promise for a no questions asked return? You hear that in a lot of stories involving missing things or stolen things or various crimes. You do this and make it right, no questions asked. Do people stand by that?
Well, it's a very Christian attitude to have towards this situation. Mm-hmm. Turn the other cheek.
Forgiveness, yeah.
Forgiveness, yeah. It does fit with the whole mold. And, yeah, I think that's a good way to approach it. Listen, there'll be no problems here. You can just leave the baby Jesus where you found it. And also, I'm surprised he didn't pump up the Lord's forgiveness as bait as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that would be pointless, though, because whoever stole the baby Jesus certainly isn't someone who's worrying about like the Lord's wrath.
Not if it was a fellow Christian whose jealousy overcame them. And then maybe it's someone who is at a church and they're like, our nativity scene, it just isn't right. We need a baby Jesus. Okay. And they stole them, and now they don't know what to do. They're in too deep.
Okay, I was assuming that this would be like something like a symptom of the puberty problem. Some kid walking by just like, ha ha, ha, I stole Jesus. Let's, I don't know what you'd even do. What antisocial thing a teenager would do with a small baby Jesus. I shudder to even think of it. But here's something I didn't know about, and I bet you and many of the other listeners didn't know about either, is baby Jesus theft, and I'm using quotations for that. Baby Jesus theft is actually a thing. I found a Wikipedia page all about the phenomenon of baby Jesus theft, which is, I'll read to you what that is. Baby Jesus theft refers to the seasonal prank or crime of stealing infant Jesus figurines from outdoor nativity displays. It's often linked to bored pranksters rather than profit. The trend has become common enough that some owners now use GPS trackers, cameras, or remove the Jesus figure entirely, though the figures are sometimes eventually returned. So there's a whole Wikipedia page that talks about this phenomenon, but it further links to various times that this has happened. So this is a thing.
Yeah. Like I've said before on this show, you put anything on your lawn, you're leaving yourself open to vandalism, to theft, to whatever the case is. So This is just another classic case of lawn ornaments either being destroyed or taken. And if they keep putting out this nativity scene, then other pieces are going to go missing as well. The donkey went missing before, he said in the news report.
Which is quite comical to steal. I wonder if someone would take all the wise men and take selfies with like the wise men.
Thankfully, they haven't put them in suggestive poses yet. That hasn't seemed to have happened. So maybe next year, we'll see.
That's right. Let's move on to our final WTF story. This one is going to contain a lot of legalese. It's going to mention the adult activity of sex, and it's going to talk about drugs as well. This is a weird one. A trademark dispute over a cheeky phrase has left a Nova Scotia small business owner staring at a box of unsellable t-shirts. There's a battle over sex, drugs, and lobster rolls.
This story starts with Ottawa-based artist Nadine Casta. 4 years ago, she applied for the trademark, which is a symbol, phrase, or logo that allows the public to identify where a product comes from. She says the phrase originated with a friend and claims it did not exist publicly before she started putting it on t-shirts. The shirts blew up. Casta sent us a statement and says that it's become an unofficial uniform for the Maritimes. If the phrase is popular, it's thanks to her brand. Jillian Poplow disagrees. She runs a home goods shop in southwestern Nova Scotia and designed this shirt.
It's just something that's said so often.
But now those shirts are sitting in boxes because she got a letter from Casta threatening her to stop selling them. So they briefly consulted a lawyer.
So he kind of told me if it's on the registered trademark website for Canada and the US, that I should listen and just pull it.
Casta also once held the trademark in the US, but it expired last year as she dealt with some health issues. California business owner Matt Snow also received a letter from Casta back in 2017. He still sells a sex, drugs, and lobster rolls t-shirt and doesn't agree her business made the phrase popular.
Parallel thought is a very real thing. Creative people do have similar thoughts. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and sex, drugs, and lobster rolls, in terms of the number of syllables, in terms of the ubiquity of sex, drugs, and rock and roll as a phrase since, the 70s, it's kind of a sort of an obvious pun.
It's a lot to say about that story. The first thing, though, I want to ask you is they talk about this as if it's this common phrase and the unofficial uniform of the East Coast or the Maritimes. I don't think I've ever heard of this.
I've never heard this. This is the first time I've heard it. Sex, drugs, and lobster roll. And
I don't like it either. I think it's, I don't find it a nice saying. I wouldn't want that on a shirt.
No, I wouldn't want it on a shirt. And the only situation that I could see it being relevant is if you were a restaurant and you sold lobster rolls.
Yeah, you'd maybe have a shirt that you
then
sell.
You'd have some shirts that you would sell in the restaurant, or you'd write it on a sandwich board or on a menu. Maybe it's a cocktail that you sell or something. But in terms of all of these people making merchandise, just merchandise, and just selling these T-shirts, that I don't get. Who's buying it? Who cares?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And it's like you have the person who has actually applied for the trademark, that costs money and takes time and all this stuff. So she is originally from PEI. She's been selling it and she claims to be the owner of this name or this phrase. And she says if it's popular, it's because her friend came up with it and she uses it. You have the woman in Nova Scotia who received the cease and desist order telling her to stop selling them. Then you have the guy in the US who also got a cease and desist order, but he's defying it and selling it anyway. Is there so much demand for shirts that say sex, drugs, and lobster rolls that there is room for 3 vendors of that? I don't think so. I've never seen one of these shirts. But that said, I could see people buying it.
I could see maybe some people buying it briefly, but not enough to support 3 separate businesses that just sell these T-shirts. And yeah, and then just the amount of work that it would take, like for the woman who first initially registered the trademark. I mean, the amount of work that she's had to get into just to protect her trademark. I mean,
it can't be that valuable of a trademark.
It can't be that valuable. No, you're right.
And the way I see it is if it was a phrase that was so popular that people were seeking it out and finding her products and buying her products because of the power of that phrase, then it would make sense to trademark it and protect it. But I feel like that phrase isn't popular. People aren't seeking it out. If anyone buys these shirts, it's because some other thing brought them to her website or into her store. So I think it's almost pointless. I feel like if only she sells them, or if anyone who wants to sell shirts that say sex, drugs, and lobster rolls, I think the end result is she's still selling the same amount of them. Because I don't think people are seeking them out.
No. And I've never seen anybody wearing these shirts. And we've lived on the East Coast our entire lives, so I don't know. But what's with the music in this news report?
I liked it. That was a CBC report, and they added like a little funky beat to it.
Was
but
it
yeah,
because
I was
of
moving.
the sexual nature of the stories, sex, drugs, and lobster rolls? So they had porn music in the background?
That's possible. You want me to blow the lid off this story right quick?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
I heard this story. It seems like I couldn't get a date of when she started selling these shirts, but a quick Google search will show you that there was a cookbook released at the end of 2010 called Sex, Drugs, and Lobster Rolls. And it was a cookbook all about like maritime food. And it was very like tongue-in-cheek and like kind of a humorous thing. But it seems like that book would predate a lot of this trademark stuff. Like, I wonder if the person who owns that book can send a letter to this woman who is trademarking it saying like, quit it. I own this. Look, here's a book from before this. Like, it would seem like it would be pretty easy to trace back the first use of this phrase. But I guess the way trademarks work is you kind of trademark the name for a certain business.
Yeah, the argument
category.
would be who popularized it. So
yeah.
If she said, well, sure, you might have come out with a cookbook years ago, but I'm the person that really put the work into popularizing and normalizing this phrase. Therefore, I trademarked it legally. Nobody disputed it. And then off to the races.
Perhaps. Maybe that'd be a different situation if they tried to now publish a book called Sex, Drugs, and Lobster Rolls, and this prior book existed. Maybe it'd be a bit different thing. But I think the most attention the phrase sex, drugs, and and lobster rolls has ever gotten is this trademark dispute. And I hope I never hear it again because I don't find it like clever or cute. Maybe that's because I find lobster kind of gross too.
Yeah, me
so
too.
Like the idea of mixing sex, drugs, and lobster rolls together, it just seems like a wild night that I don't want a part of.
There's nothing sexy about lobsters. Yeah, and lobsters are just big, giant alien bugs of the sea. Let's call it like it is. And
yeah, people love it though.
People do, but I think they pretend to. I think they love butter. They love, and people who eat lobster, they dip it in butter. And so I think that's what makes it taste good. Other than that, it's just texture, really.
I think if you want to dip something in butter, don't mess with lobster. I'd say just boil some corn and dip that in butter. There's not much better than that.
Yeah, or just take spoonfuls of butter and melt it and eat it with stick a straw in a bowl of melted butter.
Interesting butter story. And I love talking about my dog Penny. The other day, Penny was under the coffee table making some weird sounds, and I'm like, "What did you get into?" And she was like, kind of chewing on something, but just you could tell she was having a hard time with it. And when I pulled it out of her mouth, what she ended up doing was getting onto the counter and knocking off the butter dish. And she was under the coffee table eating like just like a stick of butter and loving it. She had it all over her face. It was pretty disturbing.
Yeah. You really see that domestication is just a word. That's a wild animal right there, just hoeing down on just a stick of butter.
Oh, but she's so cute, Aaron. I won't waste all our time talking about it, but she is the love of my life. I want everyone out there to know that, and my life is so much more blessed and enriched by having my beautiful Penny in it. You want to talk about Ken Tiggs, your cat, a little bit?
He's my strong, handsome man, and I'll also put him in the category of love of my life as well. And he's strong, he's powerful, he's highly intelligent, and he's a gorgeous, gorgeous cat.
Anything else you want to tell people about? We're starting to wind down the episode here. I think a lot of people were worried about you when they heard about the grenade in Sydney. They're probably feeling a great sense of relief right now, knowing you haven't been exploded. Anything else you want to say to the people to let them know you're okay or to tell them about your life?
Yeah, actually, if you're looking for just a little bit more Aaron Airport in your life, I did make an appearance on another podcast. Podcast is called Agree and Disagree with Nick Beaton, and it's where he has guests on, and they talk about a topic that they agree on and a topic that they disagree on. So that episode just aired.
Not aired. The way kids say it now is it dropped.
Yeah. It dropped, yeah, because it's hot. And yeah, so it's called Agree and Disagree with Nick Beaton, and you can search that on whatever platform you like to expose your ears to. And we talk about two different topics. We talk about the topic we agree on is that tipping culture has gotten out of control. And then we disagreed on a topic about if people should be forced to go back to work as opposed to working.
Oh, controversial.
Very, yeah.
Interesting. Well, we're getting to the end of this episode 196 of Keep Canada Weird. You'll notice we didn't air any listener mail in this episode. That's not because we didn't have any. It's because I'm busy behind the scenes, like Santa and his elves were only weeks ago, preparing something special. The next mailbag is on the horizon. So if you sent a voicemail over the last week, that's where you're probably going to hear it. So stay tuned for that. And Aaron and I have also committed to revisiting some past moments in weird Canadian history. So some of that's coming up as well. But with all that said, you ready to put a bow on 196?
Let's put a nice bow on it, yeah.
Handsome Aaron Airport, until next time.
Jordan, bus stop, backhoe, Bonaparte, until next time.
Another saying I thought of that could maybe connect to the earlier stories we talked about is one person's trash is another person's treasure. And I think of that when I see the lineup at that Taco Bell in Newfoundland. I don't really enjoy it, but hats off to the people in Newfoundland who find it so amazing.
Yeah, and Jordan, until next time, domesticated raccoons are soon to be upon us, and they are adorable and fluffy and nice to have in your home illegally, just as Penny is illegally in your home, and you will be arrested and she will be taken from your family.
Oh, geez, stop the show. The grenade just went off at Aaron's house.
Oh my God, yeah, it came out my nose there.
I want to thank you for helping Aaron and I fulfill our mission to keep Canada weird. Now, if any one of you listening want to get more involved in what we're doing, we need all the correspondence we can get. So if something weird happens in your area, or if you have any thoughts on anything we discussed tonight, let us know about it. The best way to reach us is by using the voice recorder that can be found at thecanadiangothic.com/contact. Now, I'm going to start wrapping up the episode, but before we part, let us thank a few people. First of all, Aaron and I want to give a big thank you to all the correspondents who contributed to this episode. If your voice message was aired on the show, go back to thecanadiangothic.com/contact and fill out the form to claim your swag pack and Keep Canada Weird badge. We'll happily get it right out to you. Next, a big shout out to Unicole for the intro and outro voiceovers, and Monty Data, who provides the outro version of O Canada that you're about to hear. And then lastly, but most importantly, we have a massive thank you to every one of you listening, as without your interest and your support, this work would be impossible. And for any one of you out there who want to support the show financially and get more out of the show at the same time, please consider the premium feed. A premium feed subscription costs just a couple bucks a month, and that money will fund the creation of new episodes. But the premium feed will also give you those episodes early, give them to you ad-free, and give you access to a full back catalog of Keep Canada Weird episodes and bonuses. You can go premium at thecanadiangothic.com/subscribe. And even if the premium feed isn't for you, you can still support the show by simply sharing episodes on social media. That's free, and it's a big help. So until next time, take care of each other, hug your loved ones tight, and please keep Canada weird.
And keep Canada weird. Please keep Canada weird.